Terrific day, world. Hopefully everybody's super great and getting better. Shout out to everybody that's going through something. Make sure that you smile and also celebrate the adverse situation that you're going through. You know that's a breakthrough on the other end. But don't just always appreciate the happy moments. Like they said, in order to appreciate the sunny days, we have to also appreciate the rainy days. So we back like we never left. Today we're talking about emotional intelligence. This is going to be a nice topic, you know what I mean? Should we talk about emotional intelligence in sports? Because I think it's something that you got to have, and doesn't matter what you do, whether it's sports, whether it's school, whether it's just interacting with each other. We all have to, display a level of emotional intelligence, and some can do it better than others. But what I want to make aware today is that we just be that word, aware of our emotional intelligence, and not just go through the motions and don't think that's a topic or a subject or, just act like we're oblivious. Like, somebody do something to us and we respond, and I like to say respond versus react, but we react in a sporadic way that may cause, detrimental or problems for ourselves and for the other person. You know what I mean? It may feel like you're getting even right then and there. Somebody slap you, you slap them back. But, after time passes and things settle, the dust clear, normally that's not great for either parties. And just because you responded back like an eye for an eye or a slap for a slap, you never know how that lasting effect, may linger on the people that you love and, your loved ones or your kids or the people that you're trying to set a positive example for. So let's jump into it. What's a great word? To me, emotional intelligence means to be able to process your feelings, your thoughts, and to, at a high level, respond back without being harmful to yourself and or to the other parties involved in a situation. And that's just my definition, just off the cuff, you know what I mean, off the top of my head, just my opinion from going through things and stuff like that. You got a better definition?
No, just being able to think first.
Yeah, never losing sight of, I guess, the mental side of it, not thinking, man, I just blacked out. And then that blackout can cause you. And I say this, if you want to get into I went speak at a prison. My dad goes like once a week. And one of the common things that I've heard is a lot of their decisions come from not being emotional intelligent. In that split second, that split 20 seconds, they made a decision off of reacting and not processing. And that decision caused them to, give up a certain lengthy time of their life. And that's what I take back. And that's what's the common thing for me. You know what I mean? Like, man, if I could just have that moment back, if I could just have, that understanding of process that feeling, it wasn't that bad. Somebody stepped on my shoe and I was angry. But normally anger is, deep. It's more layered than just on the surface. So that outburst, that's why I always try to suggest that we talk about it and have conversation about it. And we want to make this mental health. And today's topic is emotional intelligence. We want to make you aware of it. You know what I mean? Like, hold up. Yes, I responded like that. I blurted out. I yelled out. I responded out of anger. But I want to be able to respond better. With that, give me what's that definition of it? You got that? What I sent you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you want the definition of what now?
Emotional intelligence. What is it?
Means being good at understanding your own feelings and other people's feelings.
How can one show emotional intelligence?
By trying to understand what someone else is going through. Having empathy for others. Just being aware of your own emotions. What you got?
Man, that's right there. Any way you suggest that one do that?
Yeah, communicating one. If you can communicate properly with someone without the yelling and screaming, without the belittling, without the name saying, and if you can do those things in a manner where it's understanding for everybody, then you won. But if it's just two people yelling and screaming, going back and forth at each other, the person on the outside was like, who's the fool here? They won't be able to determine. So it'll be two fools.
Yep, appreciate that. Now that's correct. You know what I mean? So we talk about communication. Communication is so big and vital in everything that we do. You know what I mean? We also are communicating when we're not talking. Nonverbal communication is 90% of what most communication looks like. So with that being said, we have to also understand our body language and, the things that we are conveying to people even when we're not talking, So being mindful of your default look, being mindful of how you, go to a cash register and how you speak to a young lady or a young man that's working behind the counter, just your interaction with individuals each and every day. I try to use a motto, doesn't matter who the person is and what the person has going on, I'm going to make their day just that much better. I'm going to leave it just that much better. Doesn't matter how or what attitude or what they are presenting, I'm going to be, genuinely myself, and I'm going to be a happy, smiling, nice person to them, whether they're doing that back to me or not. And I just know in the long run, building that reserve just, makes my day go better. You know what I mean? Because now I'm, building my reserve tank when it comes to maybe that person had a good interaction with me. So now it's grown even, larger as far as my interaction and my positive vibes for the day. But maybe that person wasn't doing well. And because I show them kindness and empathy and not bringing the same energy that they brought to me, if it's a negative person or they bring in a bad vibe, maybe they can, have empathy for the next person after they had this interaction with me, and that they can feel a little more empathy. Now, some people just going to be some people, but you have to understand at the end of the day that you still have to remain yourself, even when you have a negative encounter. You don't want that person to be able to control you, because then it becomes another level of, well, I can control that person because, man, they had a negative vibe, so I, brought negative to it. I know some people live on that model, but I'm suggesting that, for a healthy space and being healthy mentally and emotionally, you want to remain who you are. Doesn't matter what the outside is bringing towards you. So, you've been watching any sports? NBA is in the second series. Mm-hmm. Eastern Conference, Western Conference. Eastern Conference, what you got? Boston and Cleveland. I'm lying to you, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Cleveland and Indiana. Mm-hmm. I know you've been looking at the Indiana Pacers because you got some ties somewhere with the Indiana Pacers. But did you realize Indiana stole game one?
I did.
Yeah.
And you didn't believe it.
I didn't believe it. You know what I mean? I didn't have the opportunity to watch it, so I had to go see it in the highlights. But I did not believe it. So, with, I guess, Cleveland sweeping their way through the first round, do you think that had anything to do with them being rusty? That they gave up game one, lost home court advantage?
That could have been a factor.
Well, only time is going to tell how, Indiana capitalize off of this now, because, one more game in Cleveland, then they go back to Indiana. So we'll see. Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, same. Mm-hmm. Knicks went on the road. It's the battle of the Gardens, TD Garden against the Madison Square Garden. New York Knicks went on the road and got them a win at the TD Garden. Mm-hmm. Now, I saw the highlights on it. Do you just think that was just a bad game by the Celtics? And that can't happen again, and it won't happen again? And because other than the Pacers, I feel differently about this game being lost at home.
Well, look, the Knicks came to play too now.
Yeah. They get a check on their stool. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So yeah, I understand that. So yeah. Now I just always think those guys, don't have a big bench. They're not, deep when it comes to, guys being able to substitute, get him out of there. I just think Boston has a lot of depth to their team, and I think that they're going to find a way to get back over this hump. I don't know if Indiana could do the same, but, time.
You don't know if the Knicks can do the same?
Well,
You said Indiana.
because Indiana is the lower seed.
Okay.
The Knicks are the lower seed in their respective series. So I think Indiana can overcome being the lower seed and winning their series. I do not think and believe that the Knicks can do the same thing
Okay.
and beat the defending champs. I think the defending champs going to show up sooner than later.
Well, there's a game tonight. Pacers and Cavaliers.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Game 2.
We'll see. Moving on to the Western Conference. Number 1 team in the NBA also lost their first game, OKC, Denver Nuggets. Denver was down by a lot of points. OKC controlled this game for most of the. They fought back, got it to 1 a couple of times, but OKC went on the run. But then at the end, Garden hit a 3, being down by 1, win the game by 2 points. It was some last minute, I don't want to put it on anyone, but some last minute free throws that was missed. This is the part of the game that you do not like. Denver won because they was fouling, putting OKC on the free throw line. SGA went to the free throw line, nailed his free throw, so they did it again. You like, man, the game got 10 seconds left. This is you. And they fouling and sending them to the free throw line again. This is why it's important to make free throws at the end of the game. OKC player went to the line after one of those fouls, missed both free throws. You hear what I'm saying? They're down by 1. OKC go to the line. Those 2 free throws will put them up by 3. So the worst that can happen is they go into overtime. Right? Miss both free throws. Denver goes down, push the ball. Russell Westbrook penetrate, kick the ball out to Garden. Boom, nail a 3-pointer. Game-winning shot. I would say this. This is a little emotional intelligence. Garden is a guy that has won it before, right? Denver has won a championship. But it was a player on his team that was so excited. Remember, this is only game 1. So the veterans are like, hey, we did nothing. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we stole home court advantage, right? But we still have 3 more games to win. You know what I mean? So Garden didn't want to celebrate that much. You know what I'm saying? So I can see him trying to control his emotions and helping the young guy, like, settle down. This is only game 1. Settle down. This is only game 1. This is not the championship game. It's game 1 to see who goes to the Western Conference Championship game. So, again, because we don't want to, this is not our Super Bowl. This is not our World Championship. This is not the NBA Finals. This is only game 1 to get us to the next game. So, again, a veteran guy showing a younger guy about emotional intelligence. So, we'll see. Can OKC, beat the experience of Denver Nuggets?
OKC is young.
Very young, so only time to tell. I say this. Caruso came out, and he's been doing it, throughout the whole playoffs, playing defense. He's playing excellent defense. He's knocking down the open shots. I think he had about 6 for 8 from three-point line yesterday. Also had 5 steals. That's defense. Also had 2 blocks. That's defense. He kind of remind me of what White is to Boston Celtics. He's kind of looking like that this year. How he was a defense specialist that got him on the court, but then he kept working his game, and that also evolved and made more opportunities for him on the offensive end. That's what Caruso is looking like this year. But now you're gonna need to be able to close it out. You know what I mean? The stars gonna have to play like stars. And what I mean by that, do the little things right, make free throws when it's time to make free throws. So anyway, What you got? Minnesota Wolves, Golden State Warriors. Who you got taking game one? Ant-Man ain't playing. They also play tonight.
I'm going to go with Minnesota for this first one.
That's where you going to go? You're not going to go with the experience? They're in Minnesota.
That's a good option. Okay.
Look like the road team in this playoff second series has been winning. Right now it's 3 out of 1. The road team is 1. Warriors are going to be the road team. You think they still game 1?
Yep.
Huh?
No.
Oh, see,
No.
See, the analysts, they just tell y'all anything.
Yep.
They jump on here and just say, like weather people, hey, no rain in sight. And then it rains and they still got their job. They don't get nothing back on it. You know what I mean? So you're going with the home team today?
Correct.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. I'll say this, segueing back to our emotional intelligence. Again, I always want to give props in these always want to give props in these situations. Giannis and Tyrese Halliburton father had a moment. Giannis showed the most emotional intelligence in that moment, and we have to praise him for that. And that can be an example of, the right way you respond or a way that you respond, because I don't want to say whether it's right or not. I think he did it the right way because, it could have went many different ways. And we don't want to talk about just, he got this to lose, he got that. Yes, we understand that. But he did an excellent job of controlling his emotions and responding in an intelligent way. And I think today he's proud of himself, and we should be proud of him too. He was a great example of his family. He represented his last name. He got a country on his back. So he represented a couple of different countries in a manner where, they could be proud of that. So we want to make sure that if we around student athletes, if we around, some kids that we're mentoring and things of that nature, we want to make sure that we demonstrate examples like Giannis did. It's going to be times, whether you're a coach, whether you're a teacher, that you may have to check yourself and to make sure that you keep your emotions intact to demonstrate positive examples of emotional intelligent people. We don't just want our kids to see what not to do. Our youth also need to see what to do. And hats off to Giannis for doing that, but as well for us as leaders, as mentors, as people that's working around kids or the youth or the next, even for other men. We can look at our peers and be like, oh, they handled that with grace. They handled that with love and empathy. So we can also demonstrate that same level of love and empathy when it comes to responding in a way that's emotionally intelligent. I say a negative one. If there is a negative one, I would say Dylan Brooks. I love the tenacity he plays with. I love the level of confidence and, him embracing the villain role. But I also think that sometimes he can get caught up in it and it affects his offensive play. Whereas when you do well on the offensive end and you can keep that villain tenacity, aggressiveness in line, wherever you got to TD that line, 1 foot on the right, 1 foot on the left. I think it brings his team a lot of success. But I think when he pokes the bear too far, or when he pokes the bear where it affects him in a negative way, now he's not scoring, now he's out of his offensive game, that's the issue, because you have to understand what you bring to that team. Yes, you're a great defender. Yes, you bring attitude and grit to it, but you also bring a level of scoring to it. So you can't get yourself out of it. It's almost like, similar to Draymond Green. Sometimes that could be detrimental to you and to your team because, they're relying on you to do certain things, to be who you need to be, your best version of yourself, not just be. So I think sometimes, Dylan could get caught up in those things and it can hurt him and his teammates in the long run. So y'all just be mindful of that, you know what I mean? What you got? I know you're going to knock me out. Come on. Always. I'm ready for your questions today, I promise you. And I saw a video, I'm not going to say it. I saw a video over the weekend that we've been laughing about. So I'm ready for your questions.
Alrighty. So this question right here. How often do you talk to your child about emotions, both yours and theirs?
Recently, very often. Um, when and it's a learning thing, so don't beat yourself up too much, parents, right? When you're aware of it, now you can do better. You know what I mean? But very often, every situation or every opportunity we get, I think it's a part of who we are. And if you're not that, you want to make it a part of what you are. You know what I mean? So even in situations where you can ask for forgiveness, or it could be teaching moments, because we're not perfect as parents. We're not perfect. So sometimes I got to say, hey man, I'm sorry I didn't conduct myself in the proper way. Even though you did A, B, and C, or you violated whatever, I could have responded back in a more intellectual way that was loving and kind, so you can really understand the message. So first I have to apologize for me responding in that way, because that wasn't helpful at all. That wasn't going to do anything to add value to the situation. And then secondly, this is what I'm asking of you, and this is what we're trying to teach you. So I think it's an ongoing conversation, and I think the more you talk about it, the more it becomes natural, and then your kid or the youth that you're around, they start to process it and then be aware of yourself, just like anything else. The more reps you can do, then they be aware of it, then it becomes second nature to them, and then learned behavior becomes habit when you do it long enough.
Okay. Nice. Next question. When you make a mistake or lose your temper, do you show your child how to take responsibility and calm down in a respectful way?
Most definitely. In my program that we've been creating, we went to a restaurant, and I hadn't talked to him about giving this out, but I was cool with one of the owners of the restaurant, so I had him come and talk to my program about how they conduct business meetings at the restaurant, because a lot of restaurants have business meetings that come through, guys that's conducting big time deals and things like that. So a lot of that happens with food at the table, you know what I mean, breaking bread with each other. So I had him to come in and talk about if you make a mistake, you know what I mean, maybe one of these business owners, somebody that's conducting a business meeting, ordered a steak and they wanted it medium and you did it well done. How do you conduct yourself, with a mistake like that? And we came up with this called AAA. And now we have evolved and we got AAA 2.0, AAA 3.0, all that. But AAA, acknowledge, apologize if need to, and then your actions going forward. And I do the same thing with my kids. So if I make a mistake, I'm acknowledge that mistake. If it's something that needs to be apologized for, I'm going to say, hey, man, I'm sorry, man. Maybe I shouldn't have yelled at you right there. Maybe I shouldn't have reacted like that. And then my actions going forward, I'm going to change it and begin to be aware of when the next opportunity happens. I know that's an opportunity for me to, gain more of that emotional intelligence moving forward and how I handled that situation. So, AAA.
Okay. Nice. Next question. Do you help players understand their emotions like nerves, anger, excitement? And what do you do to help them control that on and off the court?
Most definitely. We have that conversation about it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be excited, you know what I mean? Because, game may be starting, they try to process, man, what am I feeling? That anxiousness. But more so we tell them to meditate, breathe. I think being able to control your breath is the main source to a lot of the excitement, the nervousness, and even the anger that we have. Because when you're angry, you're normally speeding up everything and you're not breathing, and the brain needs oxygen in order to function. So if you can control your breath, I always, tell the kids, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now that's going to help you when you're running sprints as well. but it's going to also help you control your emotions because they're going to get oxygen to the brain. And just being able to tell them, hey, have a safe place to go to, even in your mind. You know what I mean? The game is about to start. We want to relax. So breathe, meditate, envision yourself making the plays that you want to make. If you're in school, same way. Things are going to be happening around you. Breathe. Deep breaths in. Slowly release through your mouth, you know what I mean? And also, that's going to help you calm down, you know what I mean? Because we want to start them where they can train their breath so they understand that anytime I'm in a situation like this, I can take a deep breath. When I'm taking deep breaths, my brain is getting oxygen, and now I can make a better decision. Now I can respond instead of just reacting spur of the moment or sporadically, and that decision costing me and being detrimental to me. So yeah, we have those conversations regularly, and I'm always trying to show them, different little techniques they can use in order to control their emotions by controlling their breath.
Okay. So sound like you have created an environment where kids see teamwork, they see respect, they see empathy. But did you encounter that growing up playing sports in your earlier years? Was that the same type of environment?
Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? No, indeed not. But I think the people that was around us did the best job that they can do with the information that they had. You know what I mean? Now,
Like my buddy at the Y would say, that sound like a.
but I got you, because I got him too. He had to deal with it too. You know what I mean? But I got you, because let me tell you why. In more environments, it was about teaching with fear. So most of the people, they taught with fear, and the kids adjusted to that by, if you didn't want to get in trouble, you did what they was asking you to do. But then they have, even in those environments, other environments, less of them, other individuals that didn't yell, didn't scream, didn't curse. And I was like, man, hold on, how can he do that? And not, again, remember, I always talk about generational grace, having generational grace. But I, in my opinion, came to realize that the person that was calm in those situations with me early on, I'm thinking back to 11, 12-year-old, 13-year-old years, right? They knew exactly what they had to give. They knew all of the things that they was trying to teach me, whether it was a technique, whether it was a skill, they knew it. So it was no reason to yell, because they was just always trying to, teach the step that you may was doing incorrect, right? But in some of them situations, a lot of those individuals had no idea what they was doing, and in the skill, in the technique. They was being a coach, and they were doing a great job of being a coach. But, a lot of those men didn't go off to play sports as far as a profession and things like that. You know what I mean? We have more of that now. So I be looking like, why we don't have a lot more teaching going on now? Because we have a lot more people that have played the game. But, all coaches and all, people that understands the game from an IQ level is not created the same. So in those times, a lot of those men that was teaching us through fear, they was trying to discipline us by using sports. They wasn't basing our sport knowledge off of going to the next level. They wasn't basing it off of, you can get a scholarship for doing this, or you gonna make a profession out of doing this. They was basing it off of, you're gonna be disciplined for doing this. You're gonna know that, hey, you gotta work hard for something. This is how you work hard. You're gonna be disciplined to get up in the morning and go to work, you know what I mean? So, like I said, we gotta have generational grace for the people that came before us, because they did the very best that they could with what they had. But that level of teaching with emotional intelligence was not there. It was being taught by fear. But, you live, you learn, and you're supposed to do better with the next generation, and that's our job. So go tell your buddy, I could navigate and weave through those answers, still giving a vivid picture of what was happening, not taking a politically correct stance.
Because he didn't have emotional intelligence when he was telling that man about his picture that he saw.
Well, He was saying it calmly. He was just being me. He was just being me, but he said it calmly. He didn't yell or scream, you know. I got time. I think one more. Make it a good one.
Huh. I made that one a good one because
Yeah.
I flipped it. I saw.
Yeah.
I did so generic.
Yeah,
Nope.
we want the folks to know.
Not over here.
Yeah.
All right. So, last one. Do you show your children, your players, that it's not just about winning and succeeding? Because sometimes people think it's all about winning and they're really not teaching anything because they want wins versus lessons, I guess. So how do you handle those situations?
That's a great question. Let me tell you why.
I know, and it's my original question.
Because most people think winning equals success. And that could be far from the truth. I've been around I'm talking about from little, didn't know this, but around a lot of successful coaches that knew the game, and none of them talked about winning. None of them. Nick Saban could go around being arguably one of the best coaches ever in all the sports, not just football. My high school coach was one of the most winning coach in St. James history, but as well as having understanding to take an offense and spread it throughout the world, which was the Wayne T offense, came from Delaware, brought it to Louisiana. And I'm going to say that he originated the Wildcat offense. Go do your research. If you don't know, you don't know. And I ain't going to argue with you. Argue with somebody
All right.
else, not me.
Alden.
Argue with somebody else, not me. But to get back to your original question, state it one more time. The original question.
My original question.
Because I want to make sure. So here's how I go. I just want them to hear the question again. But anyway, here's how I go. I know the question. This is why. You have to highlight more than just winning. So, for instance, the integrity that the coach is going to show, right? It's a player that's going to mess up. Depending on how they mess up, what they do, I have to discipline that player, right? So how I choose to discipline that player, I have to stand on disciplining that player, right? So if a person does something that we say, I use for example, a coach recently had his son showed up late for a meeting. The rule is if you show up late for the meeting, you do not play in the game. The kid was 5 minutes late and was his son. He did not bend the rules for his son. He missed the game. So what I mean by that, a lot of coaches, because they think that success is winning, they make an exception for that player and play him in the game. You understand that? So now you lose in the game because even if you win, you could lose because now you done lost the team because they don't have to be accountable for being there on time. Or they don't have to be accountable to their mistakes. Or they don't have to be responsible for things. All they have to do is win, and then we can make do. And, winning is a great recipe for everything. That's what they say, you know what I mean? But we just lost that kid. So now that kid gonna think he can do things in life. Or other kids that saw you, I guess, rewarded him for his bad behavior, they get the opportunity to say, man, what I ain't gotta do is right. And coach gonna still play. All we gotta do is win the game. You feel what I'm saying? So in those moments there, win, lose, or draw, you stand on the morals, values, and principles that you have created in this team atmosphere can go longer in the future than this little win today. So a lot of the great coaches, no, not a lot, all of the great coaches, they know that. They hold those things near and dear to them, and they run their organization, their program, the institution. They run it that way from top down. Nobody's bigger than the program, right? Love the person, respect the person that own the building, and treat them with the same respect as the person that may be cleaning the building. Nobody's, opposed of getting recommended or reprimanded by their mistakes. It won't be overlooked. Because when you want that player to show up in a crucial time, you won't be able to count on them, because in the large opportunities, we didn't count on them. Yeah, they showed up, but they showed up late, or they showed up. That's going to be the guy that's going to jump offside on third down and short and give the offensive a first down. That's going to be the guy that is not disciplined on the closeout. Instead of sitting down and running the guy with the three-point line, he going to close out too fast, jump up too high, and, give the guy open shot or the next best shot. You know what I mean? So if you want somebody to depend on you as a coach, you have to stand on whatever rules, whatever morals that you set, whatever principles ahead of time to your group. And if you don't have none, you probably might win a lot of games, but you're going to have an unsuccessful group of people when it comes to being successful in society, when it comes to being successful in the world. And whether you know it or not, they could be having early success now, but they won't be successful in any sport because they haven't learned the bigger lesson, which is accountability, responsibility, morals, values, and principles. They only learn win, 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 win. And winning, a lot of times, don't teach you nothing. You have to have an extra understanding to be a person that wins and know how to get better from winning. That's why they say how you deal with success. I can teach a class on that as well. I've been successful at every level, and that's a whole another conversation for another day, and maybe we'll talk about it on another day. But that should have answered your question. Did I do well?
You did. You did a pretty good job.
Yeah, so emotional intelligence in a nutshell, we just want you guys to have those conversations with your kid or with the kids that you're around. Let's make that, the norm, that a kid can express their emotional intelligence, but also use those moments as opportunity to teach them that emotional intelligence are important. Ask them, hey, what are you feeling in those moments? Because that'll help. You know what I mean? Yeah, they may have an outburst, but don't, I guess, respond to an outburst with another outburst. Ask them, what made you think that you can outburst and that would be, acceptable? Or what were you feeling in that moment? Right? Dig deeper beyond the surface. And as the older, mature, and I'm going to say should be, more emotionally intelligent adult or mentor, then that kid or that person is, that should get the conversation going and flowing, that they can make a mistake and that you're going to have a good dialogue to be able to help them process what they're feeling, process what they're going through, and hopefully those mistakes and those outbursts can reduce in the near future to them being able to control themselves. And that may help, a person to stay off the street or not react sporadically and do something that's detrimental to somebody's life or to their life. Again, it's been another conversation with you guys. Let's keep it going. Turn on the notification bell, like, subscribe, share. Make sure you get in the comments. Anything that I said, if it brought up any feelings for yourself or situations, let's talk about it. Let's dive deeper into it. But, until then, we love you guys. Be great. We out.